going to begin with this. We're hearing more scathing criticism of President Trump today from a former key member of his inner circle. In an ABC News interview, former National Security Advisor John Bolton claims Mr. Trump makes most of his decisions based on what's in his best interest, not the country's. Tony?
Bolton said he won't be voting for President Trump in November. He had voted for him in 2016. Now he says he's concerned about the direction of our country.
I hope it will remember him as a one-term president who didn't plunge the country irretrievably into a downward spiral we can't recall from.
Over the weekend, a federal judge cleared Bolton's memoir for publication tomorrow after the Trump administration tried to block it. The Room Where It Happened is published by Simon & Schuster, which happens to be a division of Viacom CBS.
CBS News senior national security contributor Michael Morell was the former acting and deputy director of the CIA. Michael, good morning. Thanks for being with us. What did John Bolton's allegations?
Good morning, Anthony.
What did John Bolton's allegations say to you about the way this White House functions?
So, Anthony, before reading the book, just reading the media, talking to my friends, I understood that there was a level of dysfunction in this administration. But after having read the book, after having watched the interview last night, I'd have to say that that level of dysfunction is historic. Lack of attention by the president, lack of interest in any details, inconsistent directives to his senior officials, changing his mind on final policy decisions, going outside his set of advisors for confidential advice. It all adds up to dysfunction. And to me, the title of the book is wrong. It's not The Room Where It Happened. It's total chaos.
Bolton says that Russian President Vladimir Putin played the president like a fiddle. What's your reaction to that?
That's absolutely correct. He did it before the election. He was the first foreign leader to figure out the way to get what he wanted from the president, which is stroke his ego, give him the photo opportunities he wants, give him the pageantry he wants. Now, many other leaders have learned that. Not surprising, Anthony, that he was the first to learn it, given that he was a former intelligence officer and he was trained to figure out what people want to hear so that you can get what you want.
Bolton took very good notes from what we understand while he was in the White House, Michael. He said that in intelligence briefings, the president actually only attended them once or twice a week. Is that unusual?
It's highly unusual. Most presidents take their intelligence briefing every day. When I briefed George W. Bush, it was 6 days a week. It was scheduled for a half hour. It often went an hour. And on weekends at Camp David, it went for 2 hours. So there was deep, deep interest, many, many questions. What John Bolton describes is few briefings. And during those briefings, most of the time, the president did the talking, not the briefers. And most of the time, it was about issues that had nothing to do with national security.
When you see what Bolton essentially describes as a very conspicuous lack of attention to detail, what do you think the impact on national security from something like that is, Michael?
You can't make good national security decisions without a rigorous understanding of the situation and a rigorous assessment of the policy options and the upsides of those options and the downsides of those options. You have to read a lot. It's absolutely clear from reading Bolton's book that the president did none of that, that the president really relies on his gut, on his instinct, and he's making a final assessment based on what's in his interests, not what's in the national interests. And I think, you know, as I read the book, John Bolton is pretty compelling on that point. It's very convincing.
The government has been fighting the release of this book because they say it contains classified information. You're very familiar with classified information. Is there anything in here that raises alarm bells to you?
So there were a number of things as I read the book that jumped out to me that I have not seen before. These would be facts about our adversaries. And I don't know whether they're classified, but I have not seen them before, and they seem to come from intelligence sources. So it is quite possible, Anthony, that there is classified information in this book.
All right. Michael Morell, thank you so much for being with us this morning.